Chapter 7. Enjoy every minute with an open hand. I talk to my clients a lot about being generous and living life with an open hand. Many people have a philosophy of living life with the proverbial closed fist, just trying to hold on tight. If I project this aura of, it's mine, the world will react to me that way. Imagine making a fist and an angry face and shaking that fist at a dog. What will the dog do? Likely, he or she'll put her head down. Maybe she'll even growl. Even a dog understands the body language of the closed hand. But what does it mean to live your life with an open hand? It doesn't mean you're wasteful. It simply means you allow money to come in and allow a little bit to go out. You save, but you give. You live like that. Believe it or not, a solid financial plan makes it more likely you'll be generous, not less likely, because generosity comes from safety and security. You'll live a happier life and you'll be less selfish, which will allow you to make better financial choices. I want to close here with a couple of client stories because for me, they are what this is all about. And I want you to know that financial plans come in all shapes and sizes. There's one for you. But when you see how different people have shaped theirs, I hope they'll inspire you to your own version. First, let me tell you about Jennifer. It was Jennifer's husband who worked for the company, not her. But they were a sweet, close couple, so I got to know her through the planning sessions she and her husband came to. She's an amazing person. But life throws unexpected curveballs into some lives, and so it was with Jennifer. She lost her husband to cancer unexpectedly when he was in his late 50s. He was a fit, healthy guy, but he passed away quickly. In addition to his solid retirement savings, they had an appropriate life insurance policy. They had planned well. She also had a pension from her job as a school librarian. They had been planning his retirement at age 65, and she was going to retire at 60. It was a solid, steady plan that they had been working on for decades. But he got sick, and he couldn't work for a year, and then he passed away. However, because of how they had planned and structured their financial lives, his life insurance made up for not only his income, but a little more. So, although she was sad and heartbroken, she was still able to retire at 60. It didn't go quite as she had envisioned, but even after suffering the greatest loss a spouse can face, she wasn't knocked off course financially, because they had both cared enough about their own finances and each other's to put a plan in place that would keep the surviving spouse safe. Fast forward a few years. She has worked through her grief, and she bought a beautiful place that has a couple of guest quarters in it and a very nice main home. It's a rustic home set in the woods of the Northwest. A really beautiful piece of country. She named the place as she felt blessed. Because with as much suffering as the premature loss of her husband caused her, she still sees herself as blessed. Now, she just blesses people who are in the transition through the church. If a guest speaker comes to speak at her church, she puts their family up in this bed and breakfast. It's not a business. It's all for free. But she makes her retirement about blessing others. She's a living example of what it looks like to live a life with an open hand, even after suffering a big loss like the one that she did. Next, I'll tell you about Charlie, a great guy. He's a single guy who was married early, then divorced, and stayed single. He and his ex-wife had one child, who's now grown, And Charlie is planning a legacy for that child. He's now in his late 60s. But for the last 30 or so years, he's been supporting orphans in developing nations. I'm not talking about giving money to organizations that help in other countries. I'm talking about individuals he's made himself financially responsible for, whom he connected with through his own experiences or through some organizations he supports. He's been doing it for so long that some of them are now adults. He has taken care of a dozen or more kids since they were abandoned by their parents, even putting guardians in place to take care of them. And he funds all of this and spends time overseas making sure it's all being run the way he wants it to be. What brings Charlie joy is getting these disadvantaged kids set up in their own jobs and getting them organized so that they can have successful lives. That's what he spends his time on. He's retired now, and his focus is on caring about and resourcing orphans that would have had a really bleak future if it wasn't for him. It's one of my favorite things to be part of managing that legacy. Through my work with people like Charlie, I get to feel like I'm helping to make the world a better place, which is really rewarding. That's just some of what money can do. Charlie saved all those years, but he doesn't spend much on his own personal life. He doesn't travel much or have expensive tastes outside of supporting these orphans. But when he does travel, he goes to make sure that all of his wards are being cared for. And that's what gives him purpose. Charlie's story is a great reminder that being a good steward of your money is not just about retirement or resourcing yourself. It can be about others too. I'll leave you with Jerry's story. Jerry is a classic case of doing it right. He started taking responsibility for his financial life when he was very young. He saved well and is set for life. He's one of those good budgeters and has been a great parent who raised some amazing children. In his retirement, he decided that he really wanted to invest in his grandkids. So he takes them on all these trips when they're not in school. He and his wife spend a lot of time impressing their values on the generations coming up. They don't just do it to spoil them. In fact, he would be upset if I even used that word. His whole focus is on resourcing them, loving them, and impressing good values on them. He's a Christian guy, and so he's active in that way as well. Of course, he and his wife also vacation 3 or 4 months a year too. As you can see from these stories, enjoying every minute can mean very different things to different people. It can be a big dream that changes the world. It can be a small dream that focuses on caring for your circle, your close circle of loved ones. It can be about money, but rarely money means much without some greater meaning behind it. Once we've got our basic needs handled, it's all about the meaning we find during our time on the planet. Giving yourself the security of a good financial plan means you can spend most of your attention not on survival, but on building a life that's meaningful and rewarding. In these pages, I hope I helped you think about your bigger picture, where you are, what you hope to achieve, and what's possible if you put your mind to it. There's nothing you can't do without commitment and hard work. And I'll be rooting for you every step of the way. Come find me at powerupyour401k.com to see if I work with your company. I look forward to helping you make your retirement dreams come true.